Chapter 91 From Cocoon to Butterfly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 3 days in a row, Donglin Zone was immersed in joy. A blessing lasted for half a day. However, many disciples have achieved enlightenment and breakthroughs as a result. Unconsciously, the overall strength of Donglin sect has soared significantly. However, the figure in green shirt sitting cross-legged in the back mountain, it was like experiencing nirvana, under the golden light. Streams of light entangled and condensed into cocoons, shrouding him silently. It caused a sensation at first, but later on, the aura in the cocoons became thicker and thicker, and people were no longer surprised. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, several days in a row, the Donglin sect has returned to normal, and the disciples are practicing as they should and taking walks. The haze that has covered their hearts has also been dispelled, but when they look at the cocoon in the sky, their faces are filled with pride and pride. 7 days, Elder son looked toward the back mountain with envy in his eyes. He had gained a lot of blessings in half a day, and that person even condensed the blessings into cocoons and absorbed and digested them. Once the barrier is broken, it is unknown to what extent it will reach. What a happy event. Elder Wang he also had a smile on his face. Originally, he needed to stabilize his foundation to break through the realm of saint, but these golden rays of light completely made up for this shortcoming in time. He said to himself, I can feel it, Elder Chu. We have already settled firmly in the realm of saints, and now we are heading towards the next realm. Yes. Is this the tribulation saint? Elder Jiang was also quite amazed. No sedimentation is required, it doesn't need to be stable either. It only took half a day to feel that I had stabilized my status as a saint. As for Chu Xun, who was wrapped in a silkworm cocoon, if he fell into fetal support, the 30 years of cultivation would be introduced into the body once, and it would be extremely heavy. Even if he breaks through to the realm of a saint, he will not need so much. He is currently digesting, plus after breaking through the saint to overcome the tribulation. The blessings are a huge harvest and need to be digested slowly. So, condensed into a cocoon, wait for a day to break out of the shell. 7 days, 9 days, 13th day, in the blink of an eye, that's half a month. However, outside world, these times, it's not peaceful either. Tianbao City, the special places in the eastern region, whether it is the 6 holy places or the top sects in the eastern region, trade here. And there is also a behemoth like the Wanbao Chamber of Commerce that runs through the eastern region and has a unique industrial chain. In such a city, Donglin sect is no exception and has its own industry and foundation. Nua Da's sect almost all relies on this place for food, drink, housing, transportation, and training resources to maintain operations. Now, East Lin Zone shop. Boom! Several strange men wearing the same robes came here in an unfriendly manner and looked at the shops in front of them. The leader of the group smiled and said, the Donglin sect's shops should have a rich foundation to maintain it for thousands of years. It's just that it's a pity that from today on, it belongs to my Xianxia sect. Arrogant. A gray-haired old man immediately walked out of the Donglin sect's shop. He was an elder from the outer sect and was only responsible for the shop here. No matter what happened in the sect, he had nothing to do with him. His cultivation level was not high, only the peak of the venerable. Zhang. The evil man headed by the Xianxia sect raised the corner of his mouth slightly and said contemptuously, in the past, relying on the remaining power of the Donglin sect, a strong man at the peak of the venerable realm could still guard this area. Now, without Donglin Zone's support, can you still hold on to this great treasure? Puff. Just snap your fingers. A sword energy penetrated the old man's shoulder. Be smart. Give up this place. Your Donglin sect is finished. This shop. You can't hold it. The strong men of Xianxia sect exuded fluctuations in their cultivation, which was the aura of the human emperor. For a moment, countless people from Tianbao City were attracted to swarm over. Many people who were leaning against the tea house and restaurant to see this scene were frightened and sighed in surprise. No. Come to think of it, when I heard about the death of the saint of Donglin sect earlier, I expected that Donglin sect would not be able to save it, but I didn't expect it to be so soon. Donglin sect has only disappeared for half a month. The Xianxia sect took action. Too fast. Aren't you afraid of Donglin sect's revenge afterwards? Someone is whispering to himself. Revenge. It's impossible. The saints of the Donglin sect fell, a gap appeared, and they fell into the lean years. There are also two transcendent holy places, the immortal Tao sect and the Zhenwu sect, coveting them. Once the two saints return to their peak, the Donglin sect will become extinct. This approach of the Xianxia sect is right. Before the two sects attack Donglin sect, take the lead and grab a bite of fat. There are not a few theatergoers. The old man in the Donglin sect shop and the group of people gathered behind him had anger on their faces. When had the Donglin sect suffered such humiliation? They were suppressed in front of others and wanted to rob the shop. The white-haired old man gritted his teeth and was stained with blood. He gritted his teeth and said, Xianxia sect, if you are so impatient, you are not afraid of revenge from Elder Chu of Donglin sect. Revenge? A chill flashed in the eyes of the human emperor of the Xianxia sect. He cut his palm downwards and released a traceless sword light, cutting the Donglin sect's plaque in half. He looked down ruthlessly at the remaining people of the Donglin sect and shouted, "Get out of here." Revenge? Is he afraid too? Donglin sect itself cannot be protected, even the sect's land was abandoned. I don't know where it is hidden now. Zhenwu Zong, immortal sect, the saints of the two sects are about to return to their peak, the end of Donglin sect is coming soon, do you still have time to take care of this? He also took advantage of the fact that the forces in the East region had not reacted to bite off this piece of fat meat first. He looked at the group of stray dogs with cold pride and said, remember, I am Dusen from the Xianxia sect. If you don't accept it, come on, this humiliation, it was not the only one, it was triggered by the Xianxia sect, for a time. The entire East region, the industrial chain related to the Donglin sect, was looted bloodily, countless disciples died because of this. In the Donglin sect, people were completely unaware of this. It's been 19 days. Why do I feel that Elder Chu's aura is becoming more and more majestic and vast? Even the Saint Xiaoyang that day was not as terrifying as him. The disciples of the Donglin sect, feeling the terrible energy accumulated in the cocoon, couldn't help but smack their lips. Agree. I agree. However, how long do you think Elder Chu's transformation from cocoon to butterfly will last this time? In the discussion, the golden cocoon suddenly cracked a gap, click. Crack. The crack gradually expanded, 1, 2, 3, in the blink of an eye, the cocoon was covered with cracks, with a sudden tremor, the cocoon was torn apart. Zhang, a pair of dark and bright eyes opened, blooming with unparalleled brilliance, and the long black hair fluttered in the wind. The figure sitting cross-legged instantly returned to his youth, radiant and suave. Master! Master! Jiang Chen looked at the figure emerging from the cocoon in astonishment. This was the first time he saw the face of his teacher when he was young. His features were delicate and his eyes were as bright as stars. Even if he was sitting cross-legged, he was free and unrestrained, and he was also full of suave. Even if he only saw him in the crowd, he would never forget him. Chapter 92 The Ninth Floor of the Sutra Library. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is this what Master looked like when he was young? Jiang Chen's eyes were filled with wonder. It was so amazing. Even though he was as handsome as Jade and handsome, he still looked a little worse in front of the teacher. That was due to his temperament. Free and easy, and informal and romantic. Elder Chu, Wang He, Elder Jiang, Elder Sunday. These people also looked at that handsome face in astonishment. My mind fell into a trance. This exquisite handsome man, how long have we not seen each other? Xiao Rongyu was also obsessed for a while, and memories of the past came to her heart one after another. She thought it was not this handsome face she loved, but when it really appeared in front of her, she was like a deer bumping around, and her cheeks flushed, and below, disciple of Donglin sect, completely stunned, jaw-dropping, all the time, the senses that Elder Chu gave them were that of a gentle, kind, calm wise man. How could they have imagined that he would suddenly transform into such a handsome man? Ah! No more. I cannot stand it any more. Intracranial orgasm, Those female disciples' cheeks flushed with excitement, and their bodies were so limp that they could fall to the ground if there was no one around to help them. That even Chu Xun didn't expect that his appearance was so powerful, and he directly conquered the disciples. Looking at the adoring eyes, he couldn't help but cough lightly, and slowly restored his appearance to before. This scene also made many people feel disappointed. Elder Sunday. Elder Jiang, Elder Wang He, but he breathed a sigh of relief silently. Having become familiar with the older version of Chu Xun, I feel really uncomfortable suddenly becoming young. I can't tell why, but I always feel strong pressure. It's still easier to accept this look now. Many male disciples of the Donglin sect also sighed. They looked at the woman not far away with admiration hidden in the corner of their eyes. What was more, they were grateful. If Elder Chu should always remain a young and handsome man, who among the female disciples in the sect can do it? Live, this at least gives them a chance to compete fairly. Elder Chu, that the eyes of those female disciples were blurry and unrelenting, their long eyelashes fluttering, and they wanted to take another look at Chu Xun when he was young, but they only felt that he was more attractive than Jiang Chen. Ahem. Elder Chu, Elder Wang He also came forward after coughing. He was amazed by his appearance at that moment, but then his joy spread and he realized something. He stopped in the middle, bowed and said, "Congratulations to Elder Chu for breaking the saint." Junior Wang He also pays homage to the saint. Elder Sunday. Elder Jiang, Elder Wang who suppressed the forbidden area. These people suddenly realized something, breaking through the saint's Chu Xun. He is no longer an elder, but Chu Sheng. Meet Chu Sheng. Meet Chu Sheng. Meet Chu Sheng. For a while, within the sect, a clear voice echoed, "There is only one voice, between heaven and earth." Only Chu Xun stood peacefully in the sky. At this moment, he realized the identity and dignity of the saint. Looking down, the entire sect was bowing its head, and the Donglin sect, which was about to decline, was even more convinced that he would return to the Holy Land. "No gift," Chu Xun said softly, "accept the salutes of everyone calmly. The world of spiritual practice, those who achieve are respected. What's more, he has come to the saints. Congratulations to Elder Chu." Even Xiao Rongyu said softly, his slightly rosy cheeks still rosy, but he said, "Since Elder Chu has broken the saint, is the sect barrier cancelled?" Elder Wang He hesitated to speak. Although it was true that Chu Xun had broken through the saint realm, he had just entered the saint realm after all. The saints of the Zhenwu sect and the immortal Dao sect had already broken through for many years. If it was so obvious, it might not be a good thing to know. "No hurry." Chu Xun shook his head gently. Although it was true that he had broken through to the realm of a saint, he still had two things to do. He had previously carried 30 years of cultivation, and he still had the void finger that he had not inherited. Moreover, he was also curious. "What's on the 9th floor of the Sutra Pavilion?" "Yes." Xiao Rongyu nodded lightly. Since Elder Chu was not in a hurry to open the barrier, he would wait a little longer and think about it carefully. It would be better to hide it and catch him off guard. After a while, the 8th floor of the Sutra Pavilion. Look slowly, a passage leading to the 9th floor appeared. This is the last floor of the Sutra Pavilion, the 9th floor of the Sutra Pavilion. There was also a strange color in Chu Xun's eyes. Before entering the 9th floor of the Sutra Pavilion, he had to satisfy one of three geniuses. First, he needed the approval of the saint. Second, he needed permission from the headmaster and more than half of the elders. Third, become a saint yourself. Now after breakthrough to sanctification, I just want to step into the 9th floor. Actually, if he wants, you can enter before. However, he has not yet entered. Instead, in the confrontation at the corner of the seaside some time ago, Xia Yang used the magical power of the Great Phoenix Bell, which is the secret technique of Donglin sect to suppress the sect. He sealed the two saints in it with just one blow. The saint of the Zhenwu sect suffered cracks all over his body and suffered unprecedented heavy injuries, which also made him interested in this technique. Step slowly, go forward, go through the passage, came to the 9th floor, the highest level of the Sutra Pavilion. It's white, empty, very different from the lower floors. There are no bookshelves on the 9th floor of the Sutra Library. When you first enter, it feels like you have come to a fantasy world. The surrounding sky and earth are all white. But after you calm down a little, you look up and see three groups of bright lights. They are the Donglin sect's unique skills. 3 books. Chu Xun showed a strange look. He reached out, the first book fell into his palm. The Great Phoenix Bell. Chu Xun smiled. Even though he knew that there must be this skill on the 9th floor, he would feel relieved if he really got it. Therefore, he was curious about the remaining 2. He waved his hand, another book fell into his palm. The Great Phoenix Sutra. He showed a strange look, knowing that this was the unique skill of the Yin dynasty, which was more than enough to be placed on the 9th floor of the Donglin sect. However, he also felt strange when staring at the name on it, and said to himself, the one of the Donglin sect is the Great Phoenix Bell and the one of the Yin dynasty is the Great Phoenix Sutra. Are there any connections between the two, and what are the names of the unique skills of other holy places? Although curious, these thoughts flashed by in a flash, he looked at the last one. 9 Strike of Heaven. Seeing that this sage-level technique was no longer related to the Great Phoenix, Chu Xun also breathed a sigh of relief. After flipping through 2 pages, he returned the book to its original place. Although this 9 Strike of Heaven was a sage-level technique, it was a stick technique, which was completely different from the way he practiced. If he had the leisure to read it, he didn't have the time now. He took the Great Phoenix Bell in his hand and walked down from the 9th floor, and the outside world, the wind and clouds surged. During this time, everything about the Donglin sect was being washed and cleared. I don't know how many people died, and those who attacked the Donglin sect were also trembling and worried. They had an irrepressible desire to take a bite of this coveted behemoth, and they were worried that this behemoth would wake up. Now with the revival of the sage of the Xianxia sect, the real body appeared above the Xianxia sect, headed towards the Donglin sect. These people heaved a sigh of relief. Donglin sect is finally going to be destroyed. Chapter 93. The Saint is Coming. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Saint of Xianxia sect revived. He descended in a peak posture, and this time, the Saint of Xianxia sect made an extremely grand appearance, with 3 golden beasts pulling a chariot, and golden lotuses gushing all over the sky along the way, releasing all kinds of auspiciousness. Along the way, when passing by a city, before approaching, the terrible pressure of the beast descended, making the practitioners in the city panic, and they said in horror, the void is trembling, the demonic energy is surging, it is a great demon in the human emperor realm. That this made the people in the city riot. For so many years, the 6 saints of the East region are in charge. It is no longer the world of demons and barbarians. Now, how could there be a great demon of the human emperor level coming to the heart of the East region? Swoosh! The city lord in the city stood on the city wall with a solemn face, looking from afar, feeling the surging demonic energy, trembling in his heart, because it was really a great demon of the human emperor level. He was horrified and wanted to abandon the city and retreat, but seeing that the demonic energy was surging but coming slowly, he also paused slightly. As he took another step closer, his pupils contracted. He was shocked. He stared at the place intently. He only saw 3 golden beasts pulled an ancient chariot. The chariot was very old and had experienced ancient battlefields. There were marks of swords and spears engraved on it. The chariot just passed slowly and passed over the sky of the city. It scared the practitioners, those ordinary people. They also looked up. Their faces were full of astonishment, whispering, "The 3-headed monster is so scary. I heard that it is at the level of the human emperor. The city lord of our city is at the level of the venerable. I didn't expect that the 3-headed monster has such a cultivation. What kind of person is in the chariot? Who knows, but the golden lotus left along the way turned into a road, brilliant and crystal clear, so beautiful, I don't know who it is." I hurriedly saw the scene in the chariot. It was a cold middle-aged man. I wanted to see it again, but my eyes hurt, so I closed my eyes. These ordinary people talked about it, and the practitioners, especially the city lord, their hearts were trembling. These people didn't know. How could they not know? This scene. There is only one person, Xianxia sect. Sage. And the direction of this trip, it is Donglin sect. thinking about the news about Donglin sect that swept across the eastern region today. There was not only the tyranny of Xianxia who severely injured the two saints, but also the regret of the saint's death, and the feeling of the disappearance of Donglin sect. I didn't expect that even so, the saints of Xianxia sect would not give up, and insisted on finding it and exterminating it. Why bother? Donglin sect is at least the oldest sect in the eastern region. It has already fled to the blockade of the sect. Why are you still unwilling to give up? Donglin sect ruins. This area is very lively. Although the former Holy Land disappeared, the Donglin city under your feet did not go with it. Now there are shadows here, and the topic surrounding it still cannot avoid Donglin sect. The atmosphere in the city is mostly negative. The old people living in the city can be said to have lived at the foot of Donglin sect for generations, and have long had a foundation. Seeing Donglin sect being robbed and one tragedy after another coming, how can they not feel heartbroken? The shops of Donglin sect in Tianbao city are gone. The vassal states have also suffered a disaster. Xianwang Palace. Fuyue sect. They also couldn't help their greed and attacked our Donglin sect. If there are only survivors, I'm afraid the people in our city are the only ones. That this kind of low mood came from the inn and tavern, and people were more and more disappointed. They naturally knew what was going on. The reason they kept them was because no one dared to move. Zhenwu sect, Xiandao sect, the behemoths of these two sects were staring at Donglin sect, as Donglin city at the foot of the mountain, who dared to take the initiative to attack. But today, there was a sudden vibration from the outside world. Boom. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. The heavy trampling sound was like a divine beast that shook the sky step by step, making Donglin city shake, and figures inevitably came to the city wall, looking over, and their pupils gradually shrank. 3 golden beasts of the human emperor realm were pulling an ancient chariot and approaching slowly. The vibration just now was caused by these 3 beasts. Here they come. The people in the city trembled for no reason. The worst ending, it's finally here, the saint of the Xiandao sect, is coming. Mu. Arriving at the ruins of the Donglin Holy Land, the 3 golden beasts were strong, with wide mouths and fangs, stepping on the golden road and pulling the chariot. It seemed slow, but in fact it was constantly approaching and descending at a very fast speed. One of the golden beasts rolled its eyes fiercely, and said wildly, "The Donglin Holy Land has disappeared. They ran away long ago. It seems that they are afraid of my master to the soul." That the other golden beast lowered its head and pulled down the Donglin city below, and said fiercely, "After the Donglin sect leaves, take out your anger on these people. They have been related to the Donglin sect for generations and are inseparable. Swallow them in one bite, and this trip will not be in vain." That the wild and fierce words of the golden beast were like thunder, exploded loudly, echoed in the sky, landed in Donglin city. The people in the city turned pale, many spies and onlookers from other forces looked terrified, and some regretted participating in this matter. Knowing that Donglin city was a dangerous city, why did they join in the fun? The eldest brother of the 3 golden beasts, who was also pulling the beast in the middle, glanced at his second and third brothers and advised them not to talk nonsense, so as not to anger the saint. And in the chariot, a middle-aged man, closed his eyes slightly, regaining his energy. But at this moment, slowly opened his eyes. In an instant, a blazing light bloomed from the chariot, as if 2 big suns bloomed. Even the sun in the sky was suppressed. As he stepped out, a vast breath of the holy way swept across the room, making the people of Donglin city tremble, and some people even prostrated themselves on the ground, trembling from the soul, not daring to look up at the power of heaven. Mu Hong, the saint of the Xiandao sect, stood indifferently in the void, with golden lotuses under his feet, and the 3 golden beasts also prostrated themselves. Disappear. Hide. Hide. The eyes of the saint of Xiandao sect were filled with disdain and ridicule. The huge sect could not be taken away, and it would not disappear out of thin air. It was just a trick to temporarily avoid the sight of ordinary people. It was useless in front of him. Boom. Raised his palm gently, pressed down, boom. The mountains collapsed and the ground cracked. A huge palm slapped on the ruins in a shocking manner. It was as if the entire ruins were flattened, and at this moment, the corner of the mouth of the saint of Xiandao sect twitched slightly, because, this palm fell in vain, and the ruins of Donglin sect were really empty and disappeared here. Chapter 94 Flaw. You are listening at novelfull.audio. To the east is the sect. Yi Qingqing was also in the crowd. After leaving Donglin sect, she didn't know where to go. She also wanted to see the final end of Donglin sect, so she stayed in a restaurant in the city. She had just felt the arrival of the saint as vast as the power of heaven. She looked up at the silent saint in the sky through the window from the restaurant, and her heart couldn't help but tremble, but she was immediately followed by shame, because she discovered that she actually wanted to watch the sect perish. I want to see the Donglin sect destroyed, to prove that your choice is right. This made her ashamed, feeling ashamed again. Donglin Zong treated me well, how could you have such an idea? Can watch, wait. After a palm, the saints of the immortal sect remained motionless, as if in silence. They also stood blindly in the void because they could not find the Donglin sect and had no idea what to do. To the east is the city. One after another, people felt this scene, the faces showed joy. Hidden, Donglin Zong went into hiding, not even a saint can find it. This cheers them up. As long as Donglin sect remains alive, it will eventually rise. When this kind of sentiment spread wantonly in the city, the disciples and elders who had abandoned the Donglin sect earlier were panicked. If the Donglin sect was not destroyed, wouldn't it mean that they were short-sighted? What made them even more worried was that once the Donglin sect returned to its former status, how to liquidate this group of people. No. Can't find it. Donglin Holy Land must perish. At this moment, what really makes people feel sad is that the people who want the Donglin sect to perish most are not the immortal sect, the Zhenwu sect, nor the hundreds of millions of practitioners in the East region, but the defectors of the Donglin sect. It is really shameful, and infuriating. People find it ridiculous. The sect that single-handedly cultivated them, but he wished that the former would perish. How ironic. It is impossible for such a huge sect to disappear out of thin air. Immortal sect Saint Mu Hong soon turned cold. He did not believe that Donglin sect had a way to hide the entire sect out of thin air. Didn't find it just now, it's just hidden a little deeper. If you look for it carefully, it's impossible not to find it. A saint is omnipotent. He murmured to himself in his sleep, as if he was speaking to himself, more like speaking to the people in Donglin city, polarizing the people inside. One wave was to pray to God to make him unable to after finding it, the other wave is the desire for the saint to show his omnipotent strength and prove that he is right. Xinqing sect, Goddess sect, Tianji sect, Xianwang Palace, Floating Moon sect. The entire eastern region's attention was attracted in an instant, for no other reason than that. The appearance of the saint from the immortal sect was too majestic and ostentatious, as if he was announcing the removal of a holy place, and if he did it, all of this would it doesn't matter. After all, one person destroyed a holy place, and he was still the oldest one, qualified to present such a scene. Xinqing sect, Xianwang Palace, Floating Moon sect, these people who couldn't wait had already taken action on the Donglin sect subsidiary industrial chain, and now they naturally hoped that the saint would eradicate the Donglin sect completely to avoid future troubles. In waiting, 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Every breath is so long, like a century, heartwarming. Whoosh! Suddenly, 2 dazzling eyes were refracted from the pupils of the saint of the immortal Tao sect, and a tiny crack of nothingness was reflected in the eyes. If you don't observe carefully, you can't notice it at all. But within this crack, there is a small cave, and the truth is hidden inside. It is the holy land of Donglin, immortal sect. Saint Mu Hong sneered, saints are omnipotent. Don't say you can't escape with the sect. Even if you run to the ends of the world, you still can't avoid the saint's pursuit. Boom! Raise your palms. Boom shot, the sky trembled, the sun and moon have no light. Boom! To the east is the sect. The disciples and elders who were practicing with peace of mind suddenly felt that the luster of the whole world disappeared, as if it was covered by a huge thing. The next breath was followed by a strong tremor, causing the earth to shake and the mountains to shake. Rumble. Rumble. The entire cave was shaking. Xiao Rongyu, Wang He, Elder Sunday. Elder Jiang. These people appeared in the air almost instantly, looking at the terrifying palm from a distance, with fear and joy in their eyes. Xiao Rongyu said in despair, I didn't expect Donglin Zongzang to be discovered here. Elder Wang He also had lingering fears, but he was more thankful and said, I'm glad Elder Chu broke through the saint, otherwise, this disaster would have been inevitable. Found by the saint, it means, unable to hide, but in reality, the people in Donglin City looked up at the saint who released countless divine rays of light and raised their hands to shake a crack in the void. The crack was constantly expanding, and the scene inside was also revealed, a sect, extremely familiar, because they stayed for a long time. It's over. Donglin sect. Found. The faces of those who have been affectionate to the Donglin sect for generations immediately changed their faces. Many people's eyes were blood red and their blood was gushing. They wanted to stop them, but not to mention the saints, it was just the terrifying and fierce power of the three golden beasts hanging down, which made them unable to struggle, and their faces became depressed again. As for Yi Qingcheng and others, when they saw the saint of Donglin sect being found, their hearts flashed with strong complex emotions, such as rejoicing, sighing, and palpitations. They were horrified to find that their heart palpitations were actually because they were worried that the saint would not be able to find Donglin sect. Despicable, that Yi Qingcheng secretly cursed herself. Donglin sect had treated her well and even made her a saint. She was so obsessed with the destruction of Donglin sect. She was so despicable. But for some reason, she felt a strong sense of comfort in her heart because her choice was right, follow Donglin sect, a dead end. Aren't you coming out yet? Mu Hong, the saint of Xiandao sect, released endless holy power. His pupils looked down at Donglin sect like the sun, with a scornful sneer on his lips, being found by the saint, it was already a way of thinking, hiding further, what's the point? Buzz. The cracks in the void spread, whether it was Donglin City, or the scattered cultivators hiding not far away, or Tianji sect, Shen sect, and Xinqing sect, they could see a huge sect trembling from the cracks in the void and suddenly descending, rumble. It fell on the ruins of Donglin sect, the great array to protect the sect was activated, it enveloped the sect that disappeared overnight in the past, back again. The corner of the mouth of the saint of Xiandao sect was slightly mocking, and those who had already attacked Donglin sect, such as Xinqing sect, Xianwang Palace, and Fuyue sect, breathed a sigh of relief. They were afraid that the saint would not be able to find it, thus giving Donglin sect a chance to breathe. After all, Donglin sect has an old man who has achieved great success late in life and accumulated a lot of experience. Once he explodes, who knows where the upper limit is? The eyes of the old man of Tianji sect were also filled with trance. In his expectation, he thought that the saint of Xiandao sect could not find Donglin sect this time, thus giving Chu Xun a chance to breathe, so that he could regain his glory in the future. Master. You are wrong. We should also have a share, that the leader of Tianji sect said disappointedly. When all the major forces were dividing up the cake of Donglin sect, he was also tempted, but the master bluntly said that Donglin sect should not die and there was still a chance, so he accepted it and watched the major forces encroach on Donglin sect. Now that Donglin Holy Land has been found, it means that it has been solved. Chapter 95 Grant you a death. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There was a flash of disappointment in the eyes of the old man of the Tianji sect, and for the first time he had doubts in his heart. Could it be that his fortune-telling on the Tianji disc had been miscalculated? You can't go wrong with the Tianji disc, divinations are never wrong, but today's game, he was completely puzzled. Donglin sect was found, from the moment I found it, it means the ending, saint, irresistible, can't resist either, there are two realms between the human emperor and the saint. Even if Chu Xun can make that amazing sword, which is comparable to the saint's cultivation, it is only one blow. The saint will defeat him in a few breaths with all his strength. Once Chu Xun will have no chance of survival, he can't think of anyone who can save Chu Xun. Donglin sect is over. Even at this moment, the saint of Tianji sect still had an uncertain tone, feeling that something might have happened. Think about it, again and again, I really can't think of any other variables. Even if the junior is amazingly talented and outstanding, the gap in cultivation is still too big. Not to mention that there is a semi-saint among the saints. Even if Chu Xun surpasses the semi-saint in one day, then he hurriedly and slowly broke through the saint, but he was still no match for the saint of the immortal Tao sect, because breaking through to become a saint requires a solid foundation. Just these times are not short-term. Furthermore, the saints of the immortal sect have been immersed in the holy realm for many years. How could a person who had just entered the holy realm defeat him? So, even if he thought of 10,000 possibilities, and even boldly thought of Chu Xun breaking through the realm one after another, he still couldn't see any hope for Donglin sect, and murmured, "Really, did you make a mistake?" The saint of the immortal sect stood indifferently in the sky. His face was majestic, his face was as sharp as a knife, and even his bun had edges. Looking down from such a high place, he was like a god looking down at ants. Even the 3 golden beasts at their feet bared their teeth, showing the ferocious look of the beasts, and said greedily, "Master, there are many delicious women in this sect, can you let my 3 brothers taste them?" That they looked greedily at Xiao Rongyu, who stood quietly above the Donglin sect, dressed in a bright red robe, with a delicate face and a hint of cinnabar between his eyebrows, which was quite alluring, and aroused their lustful evil. The saint of the immortal sect nodded lightly. Female lust has long been gone over the years. Since his mount wanted it, he would fulfill it. Moreover, he also swore his tyranny and sovereignty to the outside world. So what if the female head of the majestic Holy Land had angered him? "It's nothing more than a plaything for the mount under your feet." People in Donglin City looked at each other with angry eyes. They felt that bullying was too much and killing people could only be done with a nod. The saint of Donglin sect actually wanted to use such a humiliating method to humiliate Master Xiao, but at this moment they found out in despair. Facing that saint, he didn't even have the slightest strength left to struggle. Snort. Arrogant. I really thought there was no one in the holy land of my eastward side. When will Elder Chu come out of seclusion? Behead this bitch. The atmosphere in the Donglin sect was completely different. They had witnessed Elder Chu overcome the tribulation and become a saint. Even the terrifying tribulation was unbearable to Chu Xun. How could a mere ordinary saint dare to make noise here? Noisy. Mu Hong, the saint of the immortal sect, had a cold look on his face. He looked at the noisy guard below and gently tapped it with one finger. At this moment, time seemed to be flowing backwards, and there were faint fragments of time shining around him. TSK. The sect protecting formation, cracked, click. Kaka. Click, click, click. Cracks are spreading, condensing like a spider web. Xiao Rongyu's face changed slightly. She knew that Donglin sect's formation could not withstand the saint's bombardment, but she did not expect that it would be broken so quickly. However, Elder Wang, who suppressed the forbidden area, said, "This is his great magical power, time. It is one of the most powerful techniques, and it is worthy of breaking the formation." The saint standing outside Donglin sect glanced at Elder Wang in slight surprise, but his heart was still calm. He knew that the formation in a sect's holy land was not that easy, so he did not spare any effort when he came up. It can be called the most powerful skill, but outsiders don't know. Donglin City, people trembled. Those who had betrayed the sect suddenly became extremely excited, witnessing the formations breaking apart one by one. Some were overjoyed, rejoicing and inspired by the strength of the saint, and murmured, as expected of the saint of the immortal sect, "He is indeed so tyrannical that he is invincible." Yi Qingqing was also thinking of Jiang Chen's master, a kind old man, and said silently, "At this moment, I am afraid that even you will be unable to save yourself." Buzz. An ordinary old man walked out of the Sutra Pavilion and came to the top of Donglin sect in just one step. Facing the dense formation cracks, he just whispered the word heal and thousands of runes condensed. Instantly repair the cracks, making the cracked array instantly repaired. Immortal sect Saint Mu Hong frowned slightly. For just a moment, Chu Xun gave him a strong illusion. Then he relaxed his brows and his eyes showed satisfaction. What he was most worried about during this trip was that he was afraid that Chu Xun would abandon the sect and run away. Well, fortunately, this person has some guts and chooses to live and die with the sect. This way, the crisis is eliminated. Call, that at the same time, Jin was zone, a place of spiritual practice for saints. There was also a sound of relief. Apparently he was also paying attention to this battle, and was relaxed about Chu Xun's appearance. His entry was too fast, which once made the saint afraid. Fortunately, Chu Xun did not choose to run away this time, otherwise it would be a big hidden danger. You should go. Pity. But I can give you one more chance to become my disciple. The saint of the immortal sect said in a gentle tone, as if he was showing his broad mind to the world. Even if you offend me many times, I will not care about it. As long as you can be protected and comforted by turning to my disciples. However, Chu Xun looked at him coldly, because although his tone was relaxed, the eyes of the immortal sect saint were always cold and indifferent. He would not give himself a chance at all. If he really chose to surrender because of his words, he was afraid that he would surrender. He died without knowing how. It seems. You have to insist on resisting. That the corners of the mouth of the saint of the immortal Tao sect were slightly raised, outlining his contemptuous disdain. The air trembled when he raised his hands. The pressure of the holy Tao was fully released. Even in the distant Donglin city, everyone felt that the sky was falling and they were in panic all day long. The power of the saint. Who can resist? Their hearts tremble. If you don't obey, I will give you death. The pupils of the saint of immortal Tao sect suddenly burst out with terrifying murderous thoughts. With the pressing of his palms, the terrifying murderous intent was completely released. It was enough to show that he valued this junior, and the saint still went all out to do it. Chapter 96, Exposing Cultivation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Saint. Chu Xun raised his head slightly, the green shirt floats, his eyes are cold. If you were looking at it before, you might have thought that this realm was mysterious and unattainable. It was like God speaking outright about people's life and death at every turn, making you unable to resist. But after you actually set foot in this realm, you suddenly felt that it was nothing more than that. When the saint moves his hand, his aura is blazing. Even if he only touches his palm, the sky-reaching sword energy will be released from the palm, reaching the sky and the earth. The red sword light will cover the sky and flood the place, and he was not afraid. Now that he knows what the holy realm is, and he has thoroughly set foot in this realm, there is nothing to be afraid of. With a move of his hand, the ivy sword releases its gleaming light and falls on the palm of his hand. Buzz. A sword at random, slash over, cyan sword energy, turned into vast green, like a crescent moon. Zheng. After the sword energy penetrated the formation, the Donglin sect was intercepted by the torrential green sword energy. With just one sword, the sword energy released by the palm sword was destroyed. The formation is too weak. Chu Xun said softly, at this level, it is no longer realistic to rely on the power of formations. Buzz. A casual wave, the formation was removed. The figure also slowly walked from the foot of the Donglin sect to the sky above the Donglin sect, standing alongside the immortal sect Saint Muhong. Muhong, the saint of the immortal sect, always maintained a superior attitude. When the opponent dared to step out of the formation, he also sneered and laughed. Your courage is respectable, but it's a pity that you chose the wrong opponent. Jie. The three golden beasts also bared their teeth and showed a fierce look. When they saw the latter's behavior, they who were pulling the chariot even mocked, is this giving up the struggle? Yes, the gap is so big, the futile struggle has no effect at all. Another golden beast also said scornfully. They greedily swept the Donglin sect, and looked at the confrontation that was destined to be crushed. No more Xianxia. Who are you? I really thought so. There is still someone who can protect you. The saint of the immortal sect had a cold face. As he raised his hand, surging energy gathered under his palm, and he suddenly pressed it downwards. It was like a terrifying energy ball erupting, and his pupils also released a cold meaning. Ivy sword. Cut. Chu Xun looked cold, still holding the sword, cut off. Laugh. The endless sword energy spurted out and turned into a terrifying wave. At the first moment, the eyes of the saint from the immortal Tao sect were sarcastic. The little human emperor dared to compete with the saint. He really died without knowing how. And the moment the sword energy collided, an indescribable pressure erupted, and he actually felt the aura of the holy realm inside. This made him shudder, pupils constrict. However, before I could react, that sword energy, the energy ball has been chopped, and bombarded him, too fast. The speed is amazing. There was no time to react, so he could only cross his arms in front of him to block this terrible sword light. The blazing sword energy in the sky drowned it. The people in Donglin City could not open their eyes when the sword was shining brightly. After a long time, they saw in horror arrived. The middle-aged man standing on the sky was injured, blood flowed from his arms, drops of bright red. It is filled with auspiciousness. Falling from a high altitude, the saint of the immortal sect also stood there, seemingly in disbelief and shock. He looked down at the sword mark on his arm. Although it was only a minor injury and could be healed in just 2 breaths, there was still a wave of waves in his heart. Murmured, I was actually injured. Saint. Injured. To the east is the city. It also caused a lot of noise, long before. Then Chu Xun's reputation spread. The power of a saint can be unleashed in the realm of human emperor. It has always been considered a gimmick and an exaggeration, but the moment it was actually confirmed, these people were all stunned, staring at the sky. The gray-haired old man in Donglin City also became happy and murmured, could it be that there is something else? Turn around, Yi Xianxia, other disciples, Elder Panzong, these people were slightly trembling. Elder Chu's talent and magnificence completely amazed them, followed by rejoicing and sighing. Fortunately, Xiandao sect Saint Sha Fa Guo would never give him a chance to breathe and practice. If Elder Chu was allowed to continue practicing, the consequences would be unimaginable. Holy. I feel the aura of the holy realm. Mu Hong, the saint of the immortal sect, also had a solemn and cold face. His first thought was that it was impossible. It was so easy to break through the holy realm. Even when he broke through to the holy realm, he wasted a long time, and now he is only a corner away from the seaside. In less than a month, no matter how evil Chu Xun is, he will not be able to break through, but the remaining power of that sword is still there. It left him trembling and dazed. It's not Day's sword intent. He had learned about that sword before. This sword, more like an ordinary sword, but he killed himself with a very powerful blow. Could it be that, you have really broken the saint? He stared at Chu Xun, with a bold guess in his heart, and more importantly, he did not want to believe it. He said coldly, you have broken the saint. Chu Xun nodded gently, nothing to hide, because, the ensuing confrontation cannot be hidden. The energy in his body surged, the 8 realms of the human emperor, the 9 realms of the human emperor, half-saint, saint. The turbulent aura continued to soar, causing the situation to change, and everyone in Donglin City who looked up felt their hearts tremble inexplicably, and pairs of horrified eyes showed strong shock and disbelief. Holy! Holy! Elder Chu! He broke the saint. Those who defected to the Eastern Holy Land trembled inwardly for no reason, and their faces became intensely pale, as if they were unable to face the matter directly and withstand such great pressure. Yi Qianqing was no exception. Her delicate cheeks were as pale as paper, and there was a hint of regret in her eyes. Did you really make the wrong choice? Above, the 3 golden beasts all had their hairs standing on end, smelling strong threats and pressure. The sudden burst of aura and pressure from the ordinary old man made their hearts tremble, and they felt vaguely that they were even more powerful than their master. Be stronger. How is that possible? A golden divine beast whispered, and the eyes of the demon were full of fear. I thought this battle would just go through the motions, but then something unexpected happened, and someone from the Donglin sect became a saint. Crazy. Oh my God. Chu Xun breaks the saint. At the same time, everyone who saw this scene showed shocked emotions. For example, the emperor of the Xianxia sect trembled in his heart for no reason, thinking of his previous arrogant looting of the Donglin sect's shop. Once he survived this disaster, Spearhead would as soon as he turned around, his face turned pale and bloodless, Xianwang Palace, Floating Moon sect. Etc. Those who attacked Donglin sect all had pale faces, staring at this scene in shock and madness. Who would have thought that Chu Xun, who was previously the human emperor, would suddenly cross the great realm and step into the holy realm in just a short period of time. Not real. Not real. This can't be true. Someone in the Xianwang palace was trembling and stammered. This must have used some secret technique to forcibly elevate himself to the realm of a saint. Donglin Holy Land is the oldest inheritance, so there must be such a secret technique, right? The master of the Xianwang palace was also trembling. He wanted it too, but that quietly suspended figure, explosive momentum, he is undoubtedly a saint. Chapter 97 Chu Xun kills the saint and beheads him. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Tianji sect. The leader of the Tianji sect suddenly felt his heart tremble and stared at the figure suspended in midair. His head was empty, lost, and he could hardly believe his eyes. That old man, it turns out, sanctified. Another saint emerges from the eastern region. Leave it as usual, it's something worth celebrating. It is also worth throwing a big banquet and inviting all the forces to come and have a feast, but today, he believes it, the mood of the forces in the eastern territory was bad and ugly. They even wished that Chu Xun had never broken the saint. This shocked him but also secretly admired his own saint. If it hadn't been for his earlier reminder, I'm afraid he would have ordered people to invade Donglin. Zong industry chain, when the time comes, you will offend a powerful enemy for nothing. Little did I know, his own saint was also shocked. Chu Xun broke the saint, this speed, so monstrous, even compared to the great sage Xunwu back then, it was even better. Donglin sect, above, immortal sect Saint Mu Hong's face was gloomy and cold. He never expected that this junior would become a saint so quickly. Even though he had arrived in a hurry, he was still a little late. He said coldly, "What kind of broken holy realm do you rely on?" Evil ways, or Donglin Holy Land contains the method of speeding up the saints. Bang bang, the speaker has no intention. Listen and pay attention. The lowered eyelids of the Xianxia sect saint suddenly opened, and a bright light burst out. If Donglin Holy Land really had any secret to becoming a saint, even he would take action. The eyes of the old woman from the goddess sect suddenly became profound. After careful calculation, she found that the Donglin sect has always had a holy realm that lasts forever. Is there really any secret method? As for the Xianwang palace, people like the Fuyue sect who were only one step away from the Holy Land were exposed to an unprecedented luster, and then dimmed again, with hidden fear. Did not say. It doesn't matter. I'll capture you later. Everything will be known after the interrogation. The saint of Xiandao sect looked middle-aged, with deep eyes and a cold expression. Even though Chu Xun was shocked by the broken saint, he was still full of confidence and had a chance to win. A new saint. How could a person in the Holy Realm compare to the cultivation he had gained from being immersed in the Holy Realm for many years? Dao Cactus, the saint of Xiandao sect had an indifferent expression and clapped his palms in a condescending manner. Under the calm wind and clouds, he went all out to kill Chu Xun with iron blood. Even if he became a saint, he would still announce to the world the consequences of offending him. How about a saint? Still going to die? A huge golden statue rose up, like a layer of gold foil, and was mercilessly covered with a palm, covering Xiang Chu Xun, even covering the sun in the sky, releasing an unparalleled brilliance. Chu Xun's eyes were cold. Looking at Mu Hong, who was still not wearing armor and holding a sacred weapon, he felt cold in his heart. Is he still so generous at this time? He held the green vine sword in his palm and slashed with the sword at will. Going down, the torrential green sword light tore the golden palm apart and slashed at the opponent mercilessly. Tsk, that a splatter of blood. Mu Hong was injured again, and this moment, but it made Mu Hong's pupils shrink, and his always cold face became stiff, with a bit of shock. If the last sword was Chu Xun's surprise, and he suffered a heavy loss with his saintly cultivation, then this sword was a real deal. How is that possible? Mu Hong whispered softly, unable to believe the scene in front of her. Even though the great Dao immortal palm was a top-secret skill in the immortal Dao sect, it was broken so easily. He couldn't believe it. However, the old man in a green shirt walked forward, took a step forward and swung a sword. Each sword turned into a sea of swords, constantly superimposed, and turned into a tumbling sea of swords, surging forward. Cut it off, a wave, 2 waves, 3 waves, dozens or hundreds. Every wave that comes in front of Mu Hong is like the sea crashing against the table, causing strong rumblings and unparalleled shocks. Under this resistance, scars continue to appear on Mu Hong's body. From time to time, a cut appears on his shoulder, and from time to time, a crack appears on his calf. And from time to time there was a sword mark on his cheek. After a wave of sword waves passed, Mu Hong's hair was disheveled and her body was covered in scars. She still had the aura of a saint just now. She stood in mid-air in a panic, panting, this scene, but it shocked countless people. How so? That even the people in Donglin City were filled with unparalleled shock. This was completely different from what they thought. Chu Xun's breaking of the saint made them happy and excited. Most of them thought that Mu Hong had no way to take Chu Xun. After all, Dong lynching the domain has never had a feat of killing a saint in these years, giving people the illusion that the saint will not be killed. Mu Hong could at most suppress Chu Xun, and just now, what they saw was completely different. The scene is completely opposite. Mu Hong's hair was disheveled, and her chest heaved violently. Oh! If Chu Xun realized something, he looked at the saint in front of him with a cold look in his eyes, and said, "I thought you didn't use all your strength. It turns out that you had all your strength just now. If you do this, you are too weak." In his expectation, Mu Hong is very strong, this battle will be fierce. Even dangerous, but after thinking about it carefully, I felt that this scene was all natural. Before I broke through the Holy Realm, I could hurt Mu Hong with one sword. Now that I have broken through the Holy Realm, I will have a qualitative leap, plus the experience of overcoming the tribulation. The cleansing of thunder and the recuperation bathed in rich vitality made him far beyond ordinary saints from the beginning. It makes sense that Mu Hong is not his opponent. After thinking about it, also his mind was clear. He said to himself, "Then I will give you a sword. Are you worthy?" Mu Hong's eyes were cold and icy. Just now he said that he would give Chu Xun death, and now the opponent gave him a sword to kill him. How arrogant. But Chu Xun didn't give him a chance to talk nonsense. He directly activated the Qingting sword in his hand and swung it down. In this sword, he used his own chaos sword body. The whole body was clear and bright, like an unsullied divine sword. Just standing there, it released a dazzling sword light that made people unable to look directly at it, and people couldn't help but cross their arms in front of their eyes. Sword intention. Thick and loud. The flawless holy Tao sword intention. Swish, a sword fell, the terrifying sword light turned into a crescent moon, more like an unparalleled Milky Way tilting from the sky, stretching for 3 million miles. The latter felt trembling all over, his pores were bursting, and an unprecedented crisis filled his heart. He roared, "You, a junior who just broke through the saint realm, dare to compete with me, a saint of the second realm? Kill!" The saint of the immortal Tao sect roared. All means were used. People nearby, I only felt the might of heaven. People were terrified, filled with strong uneasiness. Look at it in horror. Puff, that I saw that the flawless crescent moon passed by with a lofty gaze. After the pure and loud sword energy was cut down, a head flew up, and blood splashed 3 feet high. Anyone who saw this scene was stunned, their heads buzzing, and they trembled and said, "Is the head that just flew up the head of the saint?" Chapter 98 Almost. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gulu, people gulped. Tianji sect, Xianxia sect, goddess sect. These forces presented the Donglin sect's battle through secret treasures, but their facial expressions were dull and stiff. Even the saints' mouths twitched, but they stared at the dazzling white light and frowned. It's all white. I can't see clearly. The sword energy is too strong to cover the peak of the secret treasure. I have to wait for the ending. At this moment, even the saints felt anxious and irritated for no reason. Such encounters seemed rare to them, let alone this critical period. You won't be beheaded. Mu Hong is not that weak. It must have been an illusion just now. The leader of the Xianxia sect was also murmuring absent-mindedly. He was shocked by the picture, but also a little unbelievable. Chu Xun was too confident and relaxed from the beginning to the end. He walked out of the Donglin sect and walked in the sky, walking casually, with one step and one sword. Not even 10 steps later, the saint of the immortal Tao sect was wounded all over his body, then he swung his sword with all his might. Decapitate the saint, it would be too scary if this were true. Can't see clearly. It's so intense. Don't open your eyes randomly, especially the Dharma eyes. Someone who had cultivated to the supreme realm near Donglin sect came. Looking from a distance, he saw a vast expanse of white. He wanted to open his Dharma eyes to peek inside, but he saw endless sword intent filling the void. Broken and messy, those white fragments were all filled with sword intent. As soon as he opened his eyes were stabbed. But some people still didn't listen. There was a fat man with an unshaven beard, covering his eyes with his hands, and bright red blood flowed from the gaps in his palms. He screamed in pain, making the people around him more alert and did not dare to open their eyes. Did that really mean the saint's head flew up just now? Many figures in Donglin City also climbed up to the eaves, staring at the brilliant white light with their eyes wide open. Tick-tock, blood dripped down and fell on the golden beast's hair. With the pressure of the saint, the golden beast's hair exploded and it let out a sharp cry. The breath of the holy way. This is the blood of my saint. The master is injured. The 3 golden beasts screamed and fled quickly, pulling the ancient chariot to stay away from the chaotic area. In fact, when the war first started, they sank downwards, but now they are farther away. See clearly. As the golden beast pulled the chariot, different colors flashed, allowing people's vision to return to clarity. But as they saw the scene above, their expressions froze, motionless, because the head was separated, the bodies were separated, especially after seeing the injured person, his hair stood on end. Chu Xun. The saint of the immortal sect has endless killing intent and grief. Now that his body is separated, he is actually beheaded by Chu Xun's sword. If the body is separated, the saint cannot easily kill him, even if it is a human head. He will not die immediately after separation, he has now become a dead soul. Owner. Seeing this, the golden divine beast that had just escaped grew in ferocious power and broke free from its reins. It transformed from normal size into a mountain-like beast, with ferocious flames surging into the sky, and rushed towards it to protect its master. Snort. Chu Xun's eyes were filled with coldness. These 3-headed beasts were usually very domineering under the hands of saints. Now they were eager to protect their master, but they also had to have the strength. The green vine sword was swung down, and a majestic sword light directly hit him. He slashed a golden beast with great force, cutting its huge body into 2 halves, blood rained down, and the internal organs flowed downwards. This scene made the immortal sect saint feel sad and angry, but it also bought him some time to rejoin the severed corpse. Cut. Naturally, Chu Xun would not give him a chance. Big hand shot, the power of desolation spreads, 8 desolate palms, devouring life essence. The most important thing is to deal with these seriously injured people. Chu Xun, why don't you come out yet? The immortal sect saint's head was dripping with blood, and he roared with grief and anger. It's too late. The saint of Zhenwu sect coughed lightly. To be fair, Chu Xun's performance just now really shocked him. He beheaded Mu Hong with 1 sword. His strength was unbelievable. It was impossible to beat him by himself. And it was precisely this that made him come out to help, otherwise the saint of the immortal Tao sect would perish in Yile. Another saint. Donglin sect, Xiao Rongyu, Wang He, Elder Jiang, Elder Sunday. There is huge pressure in these people's hearts. It was these 2 people who threatened and gave Donglin sect no chance to breathe. Now these 2 saints are here again. They are not targeting Xiaoyang, but Chu Xun. The only thing that allows them to what is a little reassuring is that the saint of the immortal sect was beheaded and his strength was severely weakened. Boom. The saint of the Zhenwu sect is tall, and his energy and blood are as strong as the ocean. Even if he is standing here, there is overwhelming pressure. This is exerting pressure. What a pity. Chu Xun's eyes were full of disappointment. If Chu Xun came out for a while, he would be sure to completely kill Mu Hong, but now it seems that he has no chance. Kaka, take advantage of this opportunity, the saint of the immortal sect is also recovering from his injuries, after a few breaths. Then he reconnected his head, but his face was pale and terribly weak, especially when he saw that one of the 3 golden beasts pulling his cart had fallen, the most fierce and loyal beast. He felt distressed and was extremely angry. This happened just because of his carelessness. His eyes were red and he said murderously, "I should have killed you the first time I heard about you." That the saint of Xianwu's sect also nodded seriously. Not taking this junior seriously was the most regrettable decision in his life. Fortunately, there is still a chance now, and it is not too late. Second saint, Chu Xun stood there with a calm expression. He still had a trump card in his hand that he had not used, and he was not like that day when he had not broken through to the saint level and was helpless against people in this realm. Hangwang Palace, Fuyu's sect, the faces of those who saw this scene changed immortally. The scene just reappeared, showing the scene of the leader of Xiandao's sect being beheaded. At that moment, they really felt that the sky was about to fall. How could such a thing happen? Fortunately, the saint of Xianwu's sect reappeared to give them a little comfort, so they were not so desperate. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Fortunately, Donglin sect has offended enough powerful people, otherwise it would have been a disaster. They whispered softly, but their frowns did not show any sign of relaxation. The pressure from the 2 saints is indeed terrible, but with the strength that Chu Xun just burst out, can he really be completely wiped out? They were worried and said in surprise, "If there is still a saint at this time, it can put pressure on Donglin sect. P.S. Brothers, please give a wave of 5-star praise." With the current number of readers, it is easy to get 3,000 or 4,000 praises. Add 500 praises and add one more chapter. Chapter 99 Peak Showdown. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the void, the 3 human emperors faced each other. Kill them quickly. The Xianwu sect saint's rough and arrogant appearance was filled with coldness. He turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed down first. He waved his right fist, and his whole body's energy and blood boiled. It was like a vast ocean of energy and blood, pressing down overwhelmingly with extremely strong oppression. Zhang, Chu Xun urged his sword to cut down. Fists and swords clashed, the 2 are infinitely close, and you can see the ferocious smile on the opposite side. The saint of Xianwu's sect smiles ferociously. My physical body has been tempered to an incomparable state. Ordinary saint weapons cannot hurt me at all. When he waved his right fist, and the energy and blood in his body surged and gathered together. Even the meridians expanded slightly at a speed visible to the naked eye, and then he smashed it down with a bang. When Chu Xun's figure staggered, his arms felt violent tremors, and the terrible brute force invaded his body through his wrists. His internal organs were trembling slightly, and his face turned slightly pale. When he stared at the Xianwu great sage, he felt a little shocked in his heart. He is worthy of being the strongest saint in the eastern region, and he is also worthy of being a saint who has been famous for many years. Dong dong dong, the saint of the Xianwu sect did not summon the Dharma, but engaged in a close-to-hand combat. He was as wild as a martial artist, swinging his fists like rain, and each punch was filled with energy. Bang 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 bang, such arrogant and unreasonable methods shocked everyone watching the battle. Even the city lord of Donglin City was confused and said, "The body refining technique of Snow Mountain Palace is recognized as the strongest, but why do I think the master of Snow Mountain Palace the resurrection is far from the saint of Xianwu sect? This is too barbaric and makes no sense. Killing him forcefully is about defeating all methods with one force." Cough. Almost face to face, it collided dozens or hundreds of times. Boom. Chu Xun's figure was also shaken and suddenly retreated, his footsteps were plowing in the void, and his face turned slightly pale, and he murmured, "You're underestimated." Just killing the immortal sect saint with a sword gave him the illusion that saints are nothing more than that. Following the series of explosive hammers from the Xianwu sect saint, He realized that every saint has his own uniqueness and it is not that easy to solve. He also glanced at the immortal Tao sect saint from the corner of his eye. Could it be that he had gone all out just now? The saint of Xiandao sect stared at Chu Xun coldly, chewing a holy medicine in his mouth, using the medicine to recover his injuries, but did not join the battle immediately, but joining the battle group was only for a while, maybe he had been preparing for it. Look for flaws and decide the outcome with one blow. Come again, that the saint of the Xianwu sect is tall and burly, with surging qi and blood, and his eyes are shining brightly. Even if the saint fights him, it has been a long time since he had a hearty fight. Even when dealing with Xiaoyang, he has some hidden clumsiness. In the end, it turns out that after suffering a dull loss, now I can truly let go of my hands and feet. True dragon fist, that the energy and blood surged like a vast ocean, surging like the red sun. When it was swung, it was accompanied by the resonance between heaven and earth, and it shot downwards. What mattered was the limit of power, boom. 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 Chu Xun also showed his extremely strong cultivation and strength. During the fight between the two sides, the pressure of the holy way exploded with all its strength. Every collision formed a golden mushroom cloud, like a small sun being exploded. The footprints moved rapidly, no longer limited. Above Donglin, we began to cross quickly. Bang! The toes of the saint of the Xianwu sect touched a mountain peak, and the huge mountain peak, which was hundreds of feet high, exploded and flattened dozens of feet downwards, causing vegetation to shatter and splash, and rocks to fly everywhere. Whoosh! The aftermath of the fight between the two spread to a lake, steaming the entire lake dry in an instant, and the fish and shrimp inside died without even having time to cry out in grief. This is the battle between saints. The laws of heaven and earth are used at every turn. Be patient with yourself. Even though the saint of the Xianwu sect used arrogant and unreasonable physical fights, his laws were the laws of power of cultivation. They had already been imprinted on his body, and his every move was filled with shocking destruction, like a human-shaped nuclear bomb. Puff! Some of them have reached the level of venerable cultivation and are among the top ranks in the eastern region. However, when they saw the saint coming towards them, they couldn't help but become distraught and wanted to run away, but it was too late. The difference between the saints' each confrontation was for countless miles. They had no time to dodge, and were affected by the aftermath, and died tragically. Even a strong person in the human emperor realm coughed up blood and fell back in the aftermath. His body was sluggish as he staggered, showing unprecedented weakness, both frightened and horrified. Saints clash. Terrible! The head of the Jiang family, the leader of the immortal sect, the leader of Xianwu sect, the leader of the goddess sect, these people who stood at the top of the eastern territory were no longer limited to watching the battle through the secret treasure. Instead, they moved quickly and came to the far side of the battlefield. They witnessed the saints constantly overflowing. The aftermath of the fight was frightening. Trilling, is the gap between the human emperor and the saint so big? Qinyu, the leader of the immortal sect, looked at Chu Xun's back with great confusion. He still remembered that when they first met, he forced Chu Xun into a desperate situation with just a few attacks, and the saint of the Donglin sect was forced to revive. It was so bad that he had to retreat, but only a short time had passed, not even a year, and Chu Xun had reached a point beyond his reach. The leader of the goddess sect, Chu Yaoyao, was also in a trance, with determination and astonishment reflected in her beautiful eyes. She was also present at that confrontation, and even though she was a spectator, she also left a deep impression. Very strong. During the fight between the saints of the Xianwu sect, his expression became more and more indifferent. He had tried his best and did not hold anything back. For other saints, their physical bodies would not be able to withstand such a high-intensity collision and would be about to crack. But Chu Xun, this state never occurred. Although he was sluggish, he always remained at his peak. How can his physical body be so strong? The saint of Xianwu sect had doubts in his heart. Normally, Chu Xun's body should be very weak. After all, he was practicing swordsmanship, but today he was ridiculously strong. If you guessed correctly, he should be overcoming the tribulation. that while chewing the holy medicine, healing his wounds and observing the battlefield, the saint of the immortal Tao sect spoke coldly and expressed the speculation in his heart, because Chu Xun's many performances were consistent with this, the 9 realms of the human emperor, one jump, become a saint. This kind of performance can only be a step beyond a saint. The idea was too shocking before and they did not think about it. But now seeing that Chu Xun's body is so hard, then there is only this option, breaking through the saint and bathing in thunder tribulation. The physical body has been baptized by thunder, and naturally far surpasses ordinary saints, although it is not comparable to the saints of the Zhenwu sect who have been refining their bodies for many years. It can be destroyed even if they want to be destroyed for a while. In addition, Chu Xun's combat power is not as good as that of a person in the Holy Realm, but if he survives the thunder tribulation, then that's all. Chapter 100 Fingering, I Can Do It Too. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Thunder tribulation, that the leader of Xiandao sect, the leader of Shen sect, the leader of Zhenwu sect, all these people were in a trance. They had a brief illusion, because it was too shocking. It has been too many years since such a demon who defied the heavens appeared in the eastern region. The last one was Zhenwu Great Sage, who left the eastern region early and went out to explore the world and never returned for many years. Now, this plain-looking old man is so amazing and brilliant. It is really unexpected. But suddenly someone woke up and whispered, he is not really old. People woke up and realized that although Chu Xun looked like an ordinary old man, he was not old, and was even much younger than many people present. Is that so? The saint of Zhenwu sect narrowed his eyes slightly. Mu Hong's words solved his doubts, but his greed became stronger. The speaker was unintentional, but the listener was intentional. Just now, the saint of Xiandao sect accused Donglin sect of having a way to become a saint quickly. He naturally didn't believe it, but now he was shaken. Perhaps Donglin sect really had a secret that others didn't know. Come again, that he walked forward like a dragon and a tiger, and developed the scorned warrior to the extreme. He was so arrogant and unreasonable. He just finished a set of fighting and instantly recovered to the peak. Who could bear this if he was at the same level? No wonder there are very few warriors in the East region who practice physical body. It's okay if this system is not normal. After it grows up, there are really few opponents in the same realm. Boom! He turned into a cannonball and rushed over. The airflow along the way collapsed to both sides, almost in an instant, fighting and colliding again. The immortal Tao sect saint had recovered, and his aura was close to the peak, but he had not yet taken action, but was looking for a good opportunity. Elder Chu, the head of the Jiang family looked worried. The surrounding saints of the immortal Tao sect gave him great pressure. He wanted to remind him, but Nian thought that he could detect it, let alone Chu Xun. Here I come. The saint of the immortal Tao sect saw that both sides were in a white-hot battle, and his eyes suddenly flashed coldly. No one noticed when his figure disappeared. When he appeared again, he had come to the back of Chu Xun, wearing armor and holding a spear. It was obvious that he had accumulated to a certain extent. The spear with endless sharp edges showed terrible killing intent. Swoosh! This was too fast. It was shocking. Elder Chu. Block! The green ivy sword appeared behind him. It blocked the attack, but it also shocked Chu Xun to stagger back. The surroundings were in complete silence, with pairs of unknowable eyes lingering there, full of amazement. When the saint of Xiandao sect disappeared, no one thought that Chu Xun could take this attack. It was too fast, like a flash in the void, and it was approaching before the naked eye could react. Whether it was Jiang Zhenshan or other Holy Land masters, facing this attack, they had only one thought: they must die. But Chu Xun's resistance, it was beyond their expectations. It was easy. He just staggered because of the shock. He was not injured at all. This. Jiang Zhenshan breathed a sigh of relief and said silently, "Is this the terrifying thing about the saint? He can avoid such a tricky sudden attack." He had expected it. Elder Wang he also sighed, even though he knew that Chu Xun was keeping his mind on guard against Mu Hong, and he relaxed after the opponent's attack failed. Too tricky and weird. Elder Jiang also sighed. When the two fought the most fiercely, and Chu Xun had no time to spare, he stabbed with a spear, which was extremely domineering and wanted to kill. Fortunately, he blocked it. As long as he could withstand this attack, he would feel better later. Humph, that the eyes of the saint of Xiandao sect were sharp. He did not pause because of the missed attack. He was wearing armor, which made him look like an ancient general. He moved vertically and horizontally, waving the long spear in his hand and slashing it down. Block, that one thought and two uses, activate the Qingting sword. On one hand, he was on guard against Mu Hong, and on the other hand, he was facing the saint of Zhenwu sect. He felt that Chu Xun was still a greater threat. He could not be careless in a head-on fight, otherwise he would be robbed and fall into an irretrievable disaster. Suddenly, Chu Xun felt a threatening power of time. The nothingness around him suddenly became mottled. He seemed to be immersed in the ancient time and years. The breath he leaked made his hair stand on end. He knew without thinking that the saint of Xiandao sect had used his unique skill, the time finger. This finger technique has just been used once, breaking the Donglin sect's protective formation. Its power can disintegrate the surrounding time and years, and make people fall into the most withered state. It is a very terrible finger technique. He is dead. Qin Yu, the leader of the Xiandao sect, said. As the leader of the Xiandao sect, he naturally practiced this finger technique and deeply understood its great power. One of its functions is to reverse time and space and restore people to the previous state. If it is used against other saints, this finger technique may seem pale and powerless, but it can be used against Chu Xun, just right. It does not need to distort the long river of time for too long, it only takes more than a month. Beating Chu Xun to that state is just when Chu Xun has not broken through to the saint. Once his cultivation drops sharply, he will be doomed to die from the saint to the 9th level of the human emperor when facing the attack of two saints. Finger technique. I have one too. Feeling the time around him falling into a mottled state, Chu Xun did not even turn his head, but pointed with his backhand to the empty finger. This was the finger technique that came with the reward for 30 years of cultivation, and it was also the terrifying fingerprint that had just been completed. Buzz. The moment of the explosion, the force of time was also triggered. The two collided, causing a strange picture to appear in the mottled void, as if reflecting the picture of the future, but it fell into mottled fragments in an instant. With the passing of time, this area was directly destroyed. Chu Xun and the saint of Zhenwu sect, who were fighting, smelled the crisis and retreated frantically. Swoosh. The two flashed dozens of miles away in almost the blink of an eye. On the contrary, Mu Hong was unable to escape in the first time under the finger of emptiness, because the finger of emptiness still carried the great power of blocking space, condensing the blocked space, and triggering the power of time to suppress and kill. This is the full effect of the finger of emptiness. Puff. On the spot, the saint of Xiandao sect gushed blood, and the armor he had just put on was instantly mottled and disordered, turning from a holy armor into an ordinary iron weapon. The middle-aged man immediately turned gray, his face was wrinkled, and his skin turned from plump to wrinkled in an instant. In just a moment, he seemed to have aged by dozens of years. This scene, it was horrifying. Even the saint of Zhenwu sect who fell to the side felt his scalp tingling, staring at the latter intently. The moment the two fingers collided, time and space were disordered, and he instinctively smelled the crisis, but he never expected it to be so terrifying. The realm of saints, aged in an instant. This is too terrible. When he thought that he almost fell into it, he couldn't help but feel palpitations. You have to know that he has tempered his blood and qi. If he fell into such a miserable state, his blood and qi would wither and his strength would decline terribly. He was also thankful. Fortunately, it's not me. P.S. The new comments are not very ideal, and I will add more tomorrow whether I arrive or not.